Hello and welcome back to Characters and Cocktails. Today we are going to be reviewing slash recapping Season 1 of House of the Dragon in preparation for Season 2, which debuts very shortly. What I have with me here is going to be Dragon's Breath Cocktail. If you want to check that out, there's a link in the description on how to create it. Let's get into the details behind Season 1. This first part will be spoiler free just in case you haven't seen it yet or you've been hesitant to get into it. For those of you that were spurred on because of Season 8 of Game of Thrones, like myself, don't worry, this is better. This is much better than Season 7 and Season 8 of Game of Thrones. So let's just get that out of the way right now. Not going to be the peak of Seasons 1 through 3 or parts of 4, depending on where you fall of Game of Thrones, where you felt like the peak was. For me, I absolutely love Season 4. I don't think it reaches that level, but it definitely hooks you, makes you want to come back after every episode. You are invested in these characters and this world. It is familiar. It's great. They brought back the theme from Game of Thrones, and it's just nice to be back in Westeros after disappointment. Who doesn't love more dragons? It took us forever to get full effect of dragons, and right off the bat, we're in this. This is dragons, and it's so much fun. House of the Dragon Season 1 is entirely a war of succession. That is the overall premise. It's very similar to the premise of War for the Iron Throne, but instead of it being a bunch of different houses going after Iron Throne, it is just the House of the Dragon, hence the title. So it's all Targaryens going against Targaryens. It's very complex, very interesting, and seeing where your allegiance lie. Now, nobody is really in the right overall in this show. You really just have to pick the best of the worst. Everybody does something wrong. Where, as opposed to in Game of Thrones, where, Jon was clearly the righteous one and he was the good guy, or Ned Stark was clearly the good guy. But here, you gotta pick a side, which personally, I go with Team Black. You'll know it's Team Black versus Team Green, and it's very good. It's very good. It takes a little bit to get going with the first 3 episodes, but it's very fun. The relationship between Alicent and Rhaenyra is done excellent, from where they are in the beginning to where they end up by the end, and the callback from showing something that was in episode 1, bringing it all the way back to episode 10. I know, simple little things, but it really shows how they both grew up within the system that they live in, and that how they chose to take different paths. This was an excellent show. I have some very strong highlights and a couple criticisms, but overall, before getting into spoilers, I give this a solid 8.5, breaching close into 9 out of 10. It's not as good as Game of Thrones at its peak, but it is better than Game of Thrones at its mid-level or at its worst. Now, let's get into some spoilers. When the war between Alicent and Rhaenyra comes to a head in episode 8, that is the best scene ever. Viserys bursting through the doors. I will sit the throne today. It was just awesome. It was so cool. That's just a highlight. Viserys, overall in his arc, his unwavering support for Rhaenyra once he names her his heir. Yeah, Rhaenyra's children are not natural-born Velaryons by Laenor Velaryon, but they tried. They made that pact, and they really tried. It's just an unfortunate situation, and everything was thrust upon them, and I feel bad for them. Not that I really condone that arc, but it was just the definition of a political marriage. So, and they were trying to make it work for both of them, and unfortunately it was unsuccessful. But right now I err on the idea that yes, Rhaenyra has the rightful claim to the throne, but her sons by Harwin Strong do not have a claim. She reinforces her claim after they fake the death of Laenor, and she marries Daemon, which should have just happened right away. If Viserys was smart, he would have married Rhaenyra to Daemon right away. I know he was mad at his brother after the events of episode 4, but man, it would have solved so many problems. There's clearly a mutual attraction between the two of them. It would reinforce the house, show that the House of the Dragon stands tall, and it would be a show of force against their enemies. Rhaenyra and Daemon get married, and they start building up their support for Rhaenyra to eventually take the Iron Throne for her, because she is Viserys' heir. Episode 8 reaffirms that by Viserys saying that Viserys Velaryon is the true next Lord of the Tides. That episode's the best. I know I've glossed over a lot of the first few episodes. It's very much getting to know the characters. It's done very well. They're very fun episodes. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but overall the show is very, very good, and you learn a lot about the characters in the first few episodes when you have the younger actors coming in as the younger versions of a lot of characters. Speaking of which, a lot of people are concerned about the amount of time jumps. There's about 4 major time jumps throughout the show, but I thought it worked very, very well. I thought it was easy to follow, easy to catch up. They made sure to drop the time difference, whether it was 6 years, 10 years, 6 months, something like that. It was very easy to follow, and anyone can pick up on that. Let's go to the final 2 episodes after King Viserys passes away, after the Last Supper he sees his family, everybody's getting along, and immediately after that, all things go to hell. Alicent naively believes that Viserys' last words were to her, talking about Aegon, their son, but if she knew anything about Targaryen history, you know that he could also be talking about Aegon the Conqueror. She claims that Viserys, during his dying breath, he proclaimed Aegon, his firstborn son, to be his heir, which is not true whatsoever, but she goes, tells the small council. Small council says, hey, that works in our favor because we've been plotting to overthrow Rhaenyra this entire time. No surprise there. Then the Greens supplant Rhaenyra and put Aegon in the Conqueror's garb, the Conqueror's crown, the Conqueror's sword in front of everyone. And then the worst part about this show happens. Rhaenys, the queen that never was, bursts through the floor on her dragon, kills hundreds to thousands of people. I can't really tell how many people you could possibly fit in there. And then flies off. And the very next episode says, this is not my fight. Oh my gosh, you started the fight. You started this fight by murdering a bunch of people. I know you didn't kill them, but you had already got blood on your hands by killing all those innocent civilians. The least you could do is kill all the greenies that are just right there. Save it, stop it from this war. They already have technically thrown the first punch here. Well, I guess not a real punch, but they made their first move and crowned Aegon before Rhaenyra even knew that her father was dead. And it gets reinforced by her not kneeling for Rhaenyra when she gets her crown. Everybody kneels, starting with Daemon, which was very impressive. Everybody kneels except for Rhaenys, which really bothers me. I know she hasn't declared support for either side yet, so understandable, but at the same time, she's been fighting for this to happen for her. I know she's bummed it's not her. She's the queen that never was, all that stuff. If she wanted this, she should show support that, yeah, someone should be queen. And and so she should be taking a knee here too and supporting Rhaenyra. I know it missed your generation, but you should be in full support of this. And it really annoyed me. Girls just don't get along, do they?
Why can't you learn to hate each other in secret, like girls do?
But following up after her crowning, she goes to her war council and she really, really wants to make her father proud. She wants to be the queen that her father knew she could be. And so she is showing this incredible restraint when everybody wants her to go to war, especially Daemon. Daemon wants to just go and burn everything to hell, like he always does. So she sends Jacaerys, her heir, to the Vale and meet with the Arryns, and then go up north to Winterfell and meet with the Starks. And then she sends Lucerys, the next Lord of the Tides, to Storm's End to meet with the Baratheons. And this is where things go crazy. Lucerys Velaryon gets to Storm's End. Aemond is out there terrorizing Luke with his giant dragon. But both of them lose control of their dragons. Luke gets killed. This final scene is extremely, extremely well done. There's no dialogue. Daemon is walking up to Rhaenyra. They have a conversation. She turns her back. You see her shaking her head, and she slowly turns around, and you know she heard the news. She's upset, but she is ready for war. The green struck first blood, even though I believe that to be unintentional, but nonetheless, Lucerys is dead. And here comes the Dance of Dragons. Oh, season 2 is going to be epic. Overall, this show was so amazing. This was the best piece of TV in a long time. Back when it came out, went up against Rings of Power and it just wrecked it. Rings of Power doesn't deserve to exist, but that's a whole other topic to talk about. But overall, highly recommend it. Even if you were to turn it off by season 8 or season 7 or wherever you dropped out of Game of Thrones, this will bring you back. It'll take a few episodes to get back into it, but it is such a good show. 8.5 to 9 out of 10, somewhere in that range. Highly recommend it. And I hope you will tune in for season 2. Anyway, please like, subscribe. If you want to check out this cocktail, it's called Dragon's Breath. I'll link it in the description. And tell me what you think of season 1. Are you excited for season 2? And yeah. Cheers.